Before we start off, if you have a question during the show, we want to hear your input. Is a big part of what makes the show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box. Send in your super chat. This guarantees that super chat gets read on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button. Let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can always go to the GSMC Deadball Sports Podcast to tip, donate, or leave a comment or question there. Again, we really couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. The Bills, they beat the Lions this past Sunday, and it was an interesting game. It was a lot of offense on the field, very similar to the Bills game that they had over the Rams a week before. The Bills this time around, though, were able to get on the right side of the win-loss column with the outstanding 48-42 win. The Buffalo Bills now have scored a total of 90 points in their last two games, averaging 45 points in the last two. They've been on an unbelievable streak. Josh Allen, he's been playing some unbelievable football. He continues to make his case for MVP. He also continues to make a case for MVP. We saw what Lamar did against the Giants. Yes, weaker opposition, but Lamar Jackson also had himself one hell of a day to come back off of last week's disappointing loss to the Eagles. Lamar was able to go, he had more touchdowns than incompletions, 21 of 25 for 290 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also got another 65 yards rushing. He made a great case for MVP as they destroyed for the Giants, but so did Josh Allen in this one, as he went for 23 of 34, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, passing, 2 touchdowns rushing, just completely dominating the game with both his legs and his arm, and taking advantage of a Detroit Lions team that came extremely depleted defensively. The injuries that they've had, they're relying on third stringers at multiple positions. It's just difficult. The injuries that they've suffered, and eventually they'll mount up. It's what Lions, they've been able to overcome that through good coaching, through their depths, but eventually these recurring injuries, they can become the end of you, and it cost Detroit in this one with the with how they performed defensively, and also in some horrible news as well. Cornerback Carlton Davis, he also is probably out now for the rest of the season with a jaw injury. Khalil Dorsey was also carted off with an ankle injury that looked really, really bad. And then Alan McNeil, who just returned from injury, from concussion, he also left the field and went into the medical tent and then onto a cart with an injury on his knee. And he did say... and then Don Campbell did say after the same, I don't feel good about either of these guys, Dorsey and McNeil. Normally, if I'm saying not good, it's not good for the rest of the year. And then there's also Carlton Davis, who didn't speak about immediately after the game, but it's looking like his jaw injury will probably be enough. The broken jaw will probably be enough to keep him out for, probably the end of the year, and the regular season. He's expected to undergo surgery, and then he's remain out indefinitely. So there's Lions team defensively. They are falling apart for a bit, and it culminated with Jared Goff. By the way, he played himself an amazing football game. He kept them in the game. Him and that Lions offense, high flying Lion offense, kept themselves into the game. Number one, it was all Jared Goff because of how dominant Buffalo Bills offense was from the get-go. Detroit were always playing catch-up, and I thought Jared Goff played a hellacious game. He went 38 of 59, 494 yards, had 5 touchdowns. Amon-Ra, 14 receptions, 193 yards and a touch. The offense did its job, and they were able to get themselves semi back into the game, but it just, anytime Detroit can't play 2 offensive possessions in a row, and anytime Buffalo got the ball back, they were immediately going out the other way. And Detroit couldn't do anything on this day to stop them because of all the injuries and just how high flying the Buffalo Bills offense is. And you know, the funny thing is, a lot of people talked about Jared Goff when he threw for 5 interceptions, but they won that game. A lot of people still decided to talk after the game about those 5 interceptions as a way to discredit Jared Goff. But those same people that were outwardly loud about him throwing 5 interceptions in that game that they won are not saying anything about how he threw for damn near 500 yards and had 5 touchdowns with no interceptions, and they lost. Where's that same energy coming to the defense of Jared Goff, and where's the sympathy for Jared Goff, just like how hard and harsh the critics were over his one bad performance this season? I don't appreciate the hypocrisy of certain media outlets in the way they talk about Jared Goff. But going back to what I was saying, though, and, you know, Lions, as I said, they couldn't play 2 offensive possessions in a row, even though Dan Campbell tried. And look, at the end of the day, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what he did. So they're down 10 with about 12 minutes remaining. I believe they're down 38-28. And he decides to go onside kick. Completely disagree with that decision. Onside kick. You have a 7% chance to get an onside kick. There is a risk-reward sort of formula that people use when they determine, decision making. There's something that is high risk and low reward. There's something that is high risk, high reward. All that. But this is not high risk. This is extremely high risk with, decent reward. But it's extremely high risk. But the probability of that high risk coming true is extremely, extremely, extremely low. So yeah, you could say high risk, high reward, but the risk is too high. Way too high. 7% chance of getting onside kick. And this is not like the old days, which, by the way, this is part of the reason why I hate this new kickoff rule. You can't do surprise onside kicks. I love that element of football where you could surprise onside kick. You can't do that. You have to, number one, you can't even do an onside kick till the 4th quarter, number one. Number two, you have to announce it. You have to show your hand. The other team knows that an onside kick is coming when you decide to declare an onside kick. So the chances of you getting it are extremely, extremely low. And look, he takes it down to the 3-yard line. Either way, like, even if they were just to recover that ball, Buffalo Bills did at that there, you're giving them a short field with the defense that wasn't going to be able to get the stop, couldn't even stop them from going 80. Now you're having to stop them from going 50. And, it turned out to be the worst possible outcome. Mac Hollins makes a really good play on the ball and returns it all the way down to the 5-yard line or so. And, becomes easy points for Buffalo. But, yeah, I just don't agree with that. Obviously, you need to steal extra possession here and there. But, you have a better chance at, forcing a turnover out of this Buffalo Bills offense than getting an onside kick. You have a better chance of getting that turnover, and they decide to go onside kick. They don't get it, obviously, and then, it's the ball game. But, and yeah, Dan Campbell, he's going to come out after the game, and he says, I thought we were going to get it, and all that. And, yeah, he's always going to live and die by his decisions, as he should. He's the coach, and he's a fantastic manager, a fantastic coach. He's rebuilt the culture and all that. But sometimes the risks are just, they're just too much for me. The onside kick is too much. Going for it last year on that 2-point conversion to win the game against Dallas, despite being at the 12-yard line is too much. You know, sometimes there is too much of a risk. It's not worth it. So yeah, it's a tough loss for Detroit, because now Philadelphia are right there in terms of that number one seed. Philadelphia is right there, with the fact that the Eagles only have 2 losses. The Lions do have, I believe, the tie-breaking edge over the Eagles based on conference record, but it's really going to come down to the wire. And Eagles, they have a gimme schedule. You know, now that they beat Pittsburgh, you know, they play the Commanders, which could be difficult, and then they close out with the Cowboys, Giants. Not that fair, not difficult. The Detroit Lions, on the other hand, they have a division rival against the Bears. Who knows what could happen there, obviously. We know Bears took Lions down to the wire last time on Thanksgiving. Maybe they could do it again. Who knows? And then they take on a 49ers team that's not going to be playing for anything, more likely than not, but could still compete. They're going away to San Francisco. Then they play Minnesota. There's an opportunity that Lions, with the defense, with how their defense has been playing the past couple of years, to drop one of those. And if Detroit has to go to Philadelphia with the way their defense is, with the injuries that they suffered, I don't know. I think this could be a big loss. As far as Buffalo, it's great for them to bounce back off that disappointing performance. But the main thing with them is, well, we know they're going to win the AFC East. We know they're going to be pretty up by the AFC standings. The one thing they have remaining to fight for is to fight for that number one seed. But the problem is, Chiefs ain't dropping any games. Chiefs are, now the Chiefs need to lose 2 of their next 3 against and the Chiefs take on the Texans, Steelers, Broncos. Yeah, that's not an easy 3-game stretch. 3 pretty decent teams. All teams have at least 9 wins there. All teams at least have 9 wins there, but still, I don't know. I don't see them dropping 2 of those 3.